All right, once again, we are going to do some testing at Watkins Glen. Made a few adjustments to a bunch of different systems, so I hope everything doesn't immediately crash and burn, and that you can actually see, there it is, what's going on. And here's another view here out the front, and here's a view of my mug.
Just done 126.
All right.
0.57. Pit lane speed limit is
run a lap or two.
miles per hour. The pit exit's clear.
So for those that don't know what everything on the screen you're looking at is, let me try to explain a little bit. Here's a little on-screen graphics 101. The easiest thing would be to explain the graph that's in the very middle center bottom of your screen. That's a live telemetry that shows you live inputs from my steering wheel, gas, brakes, and clutch.
That's your fastest lap today. You're currently 2.1 off the leader's pace.
So the steering wheel
128.6
is literally a steering wheel. If it's turning to the left, I am turning my steering wheel to the left. If it's turned to the right, then that's how far I am turning my steering wheel to the right. There is a gray bar that goes along the center of the entire graph. Those show a little bit of history for the last few seconds or so of my inputs. So the gray bar is usually right in the center of that graph, and that means if it's in the center, that means I'm going straight. But right now you can see it's to the bottom side, which means I am turning right. So that graph will show you my steering inputs and a little bit of history of that. So green means go, red means stop, right? So with that said, the green bar that you see moving and you're about to see blip, that is my accelerator. If it's all the way at the top, that means I have the gas all the way down. And you see a little bit of red now, and that means that I am pressing the brakes. So again, brakes is represented by red, and the accelerator is represented by green. Those are also in a bar chart on the right, just to the left of the steering wheel. But there's a history that you can see the last few seconds of my inputs. And if you see a little blip, that means I shift gears. I don't use the clutch to shift gears here. If you did, you would see a blue blip. I blipped the brakes incorrectly there, so I slid way through that turn. It was not a good turn. But you can see, the inputs that I did to do a bad turn. Hopefully next time I go through there, you'll see the inputs that I did to do a good turn. See, that turn just requires a stab of the brakes and get right back on the accelerator. But my entry was incorrect, so I had to let off the accelerator to keep from hitting the wall.
Eighth place. That lap was at 128.66.
That's slow. Now I may actually have some damage from that contact I have with that other car in and off track that I had very early. So we'll keep out of here just to see what happens. see the accelerator line on here, you can see I have a lot of feathering input on that to try to make that turn consistent, not get too far wide, and not bring it too far inside either. So there's a lot of play in that, especially when the tires are cold. When they get warmed up, that turn sticks a lot better and there's less accelerator play.
That's your best lap in the session. That puts you 1.3 seconds off the pace. Your lap time was at 1:27.82.
That's not bad considering the track is 107 degrees. Speaking of 107 degrees, if you look in the upper right hand corner of your screen, that is a relative chart that shows you the people around me, how far they're in front of me and behind me. As soon as I make this turn, I will explain a little bit more. So as you can see, somebody named Miguel is in front of me, and somebody named Salator, I don't know, was behind me. Now Marco is behind me. If you look all the way to the right, that's how many seconds in front or behind me they are. So currently Marco is 21 seconds behind me on the racetrack. So you can use that to see if they're gaining or losing ground on me. And when I was speaking of track temperature, if you look in the upper left of that chart, you could see the temperature of the track. In this case, right now, it's 107 degrees.
2.1 off the pace. Your last lap time was at 1:28.36.
Other information on that chart, the strength of field, which is the relative I rating of all of the drivers, the average I rating, that'll be in the middle. In the upper right hand corner is how many incidents I've had during this race. Right now I've had 4 incident points awarded to me. Wouldn't really call that awarded. But, oh, that was a good turn. Let's see if I can make this stick a little better and increase my times here. Not bad. Now, usually during a real race, this is a practice session. The numbers on the left-hand side will show you their actual position numbers currently in the race. That was good. It may give me a place or two. The bottom right-hand corner of that same box is the lap time of my last lap. So
good lap. That's your quickest today.
That lap I just completed, I did it in 1:27.660.
Okay, Nash, you've used half your fuel.
The color information in there is your current iRacing safety rating. Blue being you're the safest driver, green second, yellow, which I am, third safest driver. Then you have orange, which is the third safest class. And you can't be lower than that in this particular series. But there is another color below that, I believe. It's been a while since I've seen it. In the bottom left-hand corner of that same chart, if we were in an actual race, it would tell you the number of laps slash the number of laps you completed slash the number of laps in the entire race. Right now, this is being a practice session. It's telling you that I've ran 10 laps, and there's an approximately 86 laps in this practice session that's been allotted to all the iRacers. Now, the incidents that we spoke about earlier, which is shown in the upper right-hand corner,
P5.
other than affecting your color box after a race, it can change your safety rating. If you were to be awarded usually 17 safety infractions in one race, you are disqualified. Your car just disappears off the track and everyone else continues without you. That you just were racing so poorly that they decided you were more of a liability than an asset to this race, and so they kicked you off. So how do you get those incident points? Well, dropping a tire off the road, off the approved race line, 1 incident point. Hitting a wall could be 1 incident point. I say could because just depends upon. See right there, if you look at the top, right under my rearview mirror, it says off track, 1. And now if you look at the chart in the upper right hand corner of the screen, my X's are now 5. I got an off track for 1, and that gives me a level of 5 incident points for this race. If you make hard contact with another car, you will get 4 incident points. That's not good. Whether they hit you or you hit them, it's a no-fault type of a situation with iRating. So that's not good to have hard enough contact with another car. You can get away with a tiny little bump, but and you could get what's called a 0x for that. So they would not be an incident point. But if you were to get higher than that, if you hit harder than that, then yeah, you would start gaining incident points for that. Another way to get an incident point is to lose control of your car. You come off of a turn, you kick the back end out, and you start sliding sideways. You could get a incident for that, and usually it's called a loss of control, and that will award you 2 incident points for loss of control. All right, I think that's pretty much everything to do with that box. And as far as this goes, the other box is the standings, which is in the upper left. In a practice session, that doesn't really mean anything at all. It just tells you the ranking of all the current drivers that are driving in any practice session for this car, and it shows you their last lap speed. So if you were to look at this right now, you could see my name's highlighted in yellow. My last lap was 128.232. I am the 5th fastest driver right now in this practice session. And that's really all that tells you. During a race, there is a lot more information it will tell you. So one day when I do a race, if I have some free time, i.e. nobody's around me and I'm not racing and I'm pretty comfortable with the track enough to talk while I'm trying to drive the line, I will try to go over that because there's a lot of interesting information on that chart. See, I just got an off track. You can see that below my rear view mirror.
You've got 1 gallon left.
And then on my relative chart in your upper right, I now have 6 incident points. Another thing about getting an incident during a lap is that lap's speed is nullified as far as your fastest lap
You're currently 1.9
is considered. So if that was my fastest lap that I had ran, even though it will say, hey, this is your fastest lap and show me the time, it won't be recorded as such because I had an off track. The same goes when you run qualifying. You usually have an out lap and a lap to warm up with, and then you have 2 qualifying laps. If you have an off track at all, or any incident points at all, lost control, off track, just anything, that lap is nullified and void. It will not count towards a qualifying lap as compared to all the other drivers. So you have to run a perfectly clean lap in order for that qualifying run to be counted. Now this video was kind of off the cuff. I didn't even mean to make this, but kind of testing out some changes in the equipment, and it just seemed like a good time to go over it. So I hope this was a good informational video for you. As you can see, I can't speak and drive very well because my lap times are getting worse since I've started speaking. So that's why during a heated race, I don't speak much. I just try to hit my lines.
You're now 2.0 seconds off the pace. You've just done a 128.36.
Now I have an additional chart that I can see that tells me my fastest lap time. You can't see that usually. You might can in this practice session, but my fastest lap is 127.660 still. So I need to concentrate for a minute, see if I can. See, this is going to nullify that lap. I need to try to beat that. I've got just a little bit of fuel left, probably enough for about 3 laps. Oh! And oh, that's a code brown. And so let's see if I can turn a lap. You can also see below my mirror right now, somebody said sorry to someone else. That guy's not he must have bumped into someone and doesn't have a microphone, so he has to type on a keyboard. And all the drivers see that broadcast, as well as anytime you hear someone speaking. All the drivers in that race or in that practice session are hearing them speak. So sometimes drivers will communicate with each other to maybe try to help one another, or usually it's to voice their displeasure with another person's driving. That's usually the case. Too wide there. You can see it's costing me time. I was doing well, and I pushed it too hard trying to break that lap time, so maybe I can make up. I'm 1/10 slow. That's another graphic as well. I don't usually always run it during a race, but sometimes I do. That's called a delta. Tells you if you're faster or slower than your fastest legal lap, which means you didn't have any incidents on that lap. So according to this delta, I am 0.08 seconds slower than my fastest lap. So you want that in the green, and that means you're doing better.
That was 127.75.
I missed a gear there. See, it was going into the green, and now it's going into the red because I missed that gear. It cost me, it was just, you know, a 100th of a second, but it was enough on this long stretch to keep adding up. Now I'm a 10th slow, 1.2 seconds slow. So that's a way I can gauge if I'm driving faster or better or erratic, or if I'm getting, you know, maybe got a good pull from somebody. That was a little hairy. I lost half a second in that. The back end kicked out on me. The same guy has wrecked again. That's the one a couple of laps ago that spun in front of me and almost hit him. All right, we're going for a good lap time, which means I'm going to mess it up, I'm sure. Drove in a little too deep.
P6, you're now 2.2 off the pace.
Now the spotter there is telling me I'm 2.2 seconds slower than the fastest car. I'm not really worried about that because this track has a lot of drafting in it. And to get those kinds of speeds, you drafted. So not really, as far as a race speed, I'm within a few tenths of being very good here, so.
Car in front lap
Off
time
track.
127.44.
So if I hadn't headed off track, this would have been a decent lap. I'm going to be running on fumes here in a minute. Because that delta right above the mirror there is live,
You've got 2 minutes of fuel remaining.
I could tell if I'm doing a turn wrong,
Thank you.
or maybe I found a better line somewhere. It's really good during practice. So try not to run it during a race too much because it can be distracting. You can chase that delta.
Very little fuel left in this lap. Box this lap, please, Nash.
Now you'll see I'll get a good pull off of this and my delta will start going up pretty quickly because of the draft. He's going to slow me down when we get to the bus stop, and this is going to be my last lap to try to get a good lap in. So you see my delta is off the chart now because got a good draft here. All right, he's lost it.
Right side, clear right.
And I lost it trying to make sure I didn't hit him, and I got an off track. So even though this lap is good, right now I'm 0.15 seconds. So, and I just started, so you see me pushing the clutch. I just lost fuel pressure. So my testing is done. I hope you learned something so that helps your enjoyment as you're watching the race. You can keep track of those little bars and see how I'm doing or see what kind of inputs are happening. Look at the times, kind of get an idea of how people are ranked. The other thing I really didn't talk about, I'm going to do it really quick, is on the relative in the upper right-hand corner. I talked about the color spot, which is their I rating, or the safety rating. The other number in the white box is their I rating. That is how
300 feet.
iRacing determines
100 feet.
your ability level, and they will class you
Alright.
with people around that
No worries.
relative level.
No
so,
worries.
so when you run a race,
Here the last track.
let me turn that down. So when you run a race, you will see usually those, like my number is 2.1 thousand. Also in this race, or this practice session, there's a guy with 0.8.
Amen to that.
There's also a 1.4, and then there's a guy with an A rating that's 2.7. He's very good. So that will give you a relative idea of how good of a driver you're up against. If you win races, or if you finish well, that number will go up. If you finish poorly, that number will go down. And in the long run, it does give you a good idea of your level of performance. So anyway, I hope this video, again, I hope it helped you. It was impromptu, so it's not very polished, but anyway, it was good practice for me, and they just filled my car back up. So now I have a full tank of gas. So anyway, I'm going to sign off for now. Thanks for watching this. Bye.